Okay, so why we do zazen? Well, here comes Joanne. Okay. Why we do zazen is to become open to everything. Very simple. We become open to everything. Though in the beginning, it might look as if we are doing it, we are trying to empty our minds in order to make our mind, in order to make our mind clear or calm. If we think that we're trying to make our mind calm, this would imply that our goal is to prevent thoughts from coming into our mind. And so we are not open to letting them come into it, which is not the case. Remember, let your thoughts in, leave the door open, and let your thoughts in. Of course, this doesn't mean that we want to keep our thoughts there either in our mind, for we are open to their disappearance as well. So you leave the back door open also, Zukiboshi said. An open mind is one that accepts everything. It is also called a big mind, as you know, for it includes everything, and it is certainly not closed. In clinging to things that our small mind may not want changed, we may think of ourselves as defending our freedom not to change. But to be closed to anything is the opposite of being free. Moreover, what we are becoming open to changes over time, and my talk today is about that. The change that happens to us with respect to openness. When beginning to practice, we tend to have little idea about what is meant by emptiness. Probably never having considered it before, its seemingly opposite, which is form, the relative world as differentiated by thinking, is taken to be what defines who we are. Indeed, some in trying out meditation and not having a moment in which they have no thoughts may conclude that they think too much to be suitable for meditation, which is not true. This one-sided belief in form that we have as our nature is a main source of suffering for us, in that the relative world is not actually real. Everything is empty then, only existing due to everything else defining it. Nothing exists in itself. This is what the Heart Sutras, form itself is emptiness, form itself is emptiness, is referring to. Form is downplayed when emptiness is being stressed like this. Each thing in the relative world being so tied to everything else that nothing can be said to exist independently. White only exists because black does, and vice versa. For if there wasn't black, there wouldn't be white. For someone who is blind, the existence of black, nor for that matter, the existence of any color, either, including white, hasn't any meaning. Meaning only comes in comparison. However, once we experience moments in zazen of our minds being empty, and especially like now during a retreat, this absence of thought provides us with a limited view of emptiness. It increases our intellectual horizons about meditation, although one, in a way, analogous to trying to to see the horizon itself from inside a hangar with the doors shut. The hangar is good and big, but that's not the horizon. We become open not to emptiness itself, but to the idea of emptiness. However, in time, it becomes clear that without paying attention to form, emptiness cannot be experienced. As belief in the small self and the three delusions resulting from this get in the way. It may be helpful to identify these almost as one by one in order to keep from being waylaid by them. Avarice, wanting to what we want, hatred, not wanting what we get, or getting what we don't want, and ignorance, being indifferent to either way. It's kind of like plus and minus, and neither of the two. Okay. In recognizing these, we become open to form through looking at what is going on with respect to our small mind, small self, and the ways in which it keeps us tied to it. It turns out that a great deal of what has disturbed us in the external world is really only about us. The Heart Sutra expresses this as emptiness is form. While in the Genjo Koan, Jane and I both have talked about this before, this process is covered by to study the self is to forget the self. No longer moved by the small self's dictates about how we are to interact with our world, we don't feel the need to take its demands seriously. Especially as it becomes obvious that it is we who are in need of changing, not the world. Ultimately, forgetting the self is not a matter of denying the small self, then of accepting the self, though not in the same way as before. Once we were generally closed to much of what the world presented us with, and now we are not. A moment can also occur in which we understand that everything is all right with us. Nothing then, lost then, is the once imagined need to do the dirty work of judging ourselves for society, thinking about ourselves in the ways of good and bad. Now open to our true self and accepting this self, even seemingly exposed character faults become amusing personal foibles. We can truly get what Suzuki Roshi meant by, you are perfect. This is a kind of paraphrase or close, but not the exact words. You are perfect, and you could use a little improvement. You've heard that many times. You are perfect, and you could use a little improvement. From now on, there is basically nothing wrong with us. Yet it is clear as well that we have to go on practicing. The next step in becoming open comes from helping others to understand that what the Roshi said above here is about them as well. In the Genjo Koan, this is to forget the self is to be identified by all things. This could be identified by others, that's what's mostly in our life, but it extends to everything in that world, not just by others. But in the case of helping, we are helping others mostly. Well, it could be the world, of course. Particularly should be the world nowadays. Rephrased, that is, to forget the self is to be identified by all things, this might be your problems, my problems. We become open to others and their worlds until we have accepted them as much as we have already accepted ourselves and accepted our worlds. Our final acceptance comes from understanding that there is that there the understanding that there is no difference between us and others. And so there is no one who needs help. In the end, as right from the start, we are all equals. The dualistic pairs of form and emptiness, us and others, samsara and nirvana, etc., are differentiations that have no meaning any longer. So when everything is seen as always open, it is unlikely that there can be a need to differentiate it from something that is closed. Closed no longer is there, but emptiness also, but open also is no longer there. So therefore, in the Genjo Koan, it ends. This section that Genjo Koan ends. No enlightenment remains. Enlightenment is openness. No enlightenment remains, and no trace goes on forever. That's beyond closed and beyond empty and beyond open. Okay, thank you. We move over to include Jane here. I move more easily here. She does. Here we go. A little closer, sure. There we go. Okay, get back a little bit. So, do you have any?
Over a little bit if you want. You can sit over here.
There we go. Okay, here we are. Okay. So, do you have any? Did you understand? Yes, Chris.
Yeah, there's a lot in there that I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch the talk and unpack some more because, yeah, I was like I would start thinking about something you said and then stop and kind of tune back in, and just like realize, oh God, he's saying something else that I'm not quite. But
well, it changes. That changes.
yeah, um, yeah. The main theme of being open to everything seems like quite a tall order, um, especially when I have aversion to so much. And it's really hard to see that stuff, that very same stuff that I have aversion to, as somehow being nirvana. Or is that fair?
No, because yes, in a way you could say that, but it also means finally you go beyond that. Anyway, aversion is a form of negativity, and in itself, it represents being closed. To have an aversion is to be closed. It's just the opposite of being open. So, but we are we have from a relative world point of view, we all have a great deal of karma, whatever that may be. You don't have to identify a karma, but we all have these things that we have to deal with. But ultimately, Chris, you will no longer have aversion. Not really. You might get angry at some point. That'll happen naturally, but you won't. You won't. You'll just say, "Oh, I was angry." It'll pass. So we remain the same. Of course, we don't become saints or something, but or we go beyond. That's the point of going on beyond emptiness. Going beyond form and emptiness is to go beyond being a saint.
So then, is nirvana are nirvana and the openness you've been speaking of, are those like linked?
Yes, they're pictures of the same thing. They're photographs of the same thing. Now, of course, uh, yeah, yeah. But of course, in Soto Zen, the point is going beyond nirvana, and therefore, ultimately, you're just one of the guys, or etc. One of us, not but peoples. and so there's no difference anymore. So that's what it means by no form of emptiness, no emptiness remain. I can't get that quote quite right. I wrote this in the last 10 minutes, actually. No trace of emptiness, pardon me, I got it, remains, and this no trace continues forever, or goes on forever. So that's what we are aiming for, you might say, if we were aiming, but we don't. Aiming doesn't work too well. Joanne?
So it's kind of interesting. I think after talking to Jane and Dokusan this morning, I realized that I really missed koan practice. Thanks for bringing me koan practice today. And for once, I feel like I actually understood everything you said.
Oh, wonderful.
So that brings up a question. If nobody needs help, then why teach? Is teaching, or you could just say, like, why protest? Why give to charity? I mean, I suppose it's just an exercise in tending to form and emptiness at the same time.
Trying to help somebody and helping somebody are different. When you're trying to help somebody, yourself will be involved to some extent. You, in that case, we need a noun, and the noun is you are trying to help somebody. But but this in the sense of helping somebody, yeah, it's what happens naturally. You act naturally. That's our natural way, as I've said recently, someplace, is our natural way. This is not me, though. However, this is what the Dharma is. Our natural way is to be is helpfulness. That's who we are. We take care of each other. We don't have to try to. That's what we'll do. Now we have to try. But eventually, we won't even be trying. But
It doesn't take.
But caring will take place, and it will be even greater. There's no trace continues forever.
And there's no effort.
No, there's no effort. No, there's no. That's very important. Yeah, there's no effort.
So so like maybe recognizing when you're like trying too hard.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, yeah. That's the self's involved. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I can see that I act in unnatural ways quite a bit.
Yeah, but of course, within the arc of the practice, what we go through is all natural. Whether it's aversion, whether it's trying too hard, et cetera, that's part of the practice. Nothing to be anything other than that. Oh, that's part of the practice.
And then it's just, oh, I'm trying too hard.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah, yeah. And that'll happen throughout your whole life. But it'll be a foible.
Because you can see it when it happens.
Yeah, you see it, and you don't take it seriously. There's nothing to be serious about.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah. Daniel? Dan, are you there? Oh, you got your mic is there. You go.
There we go. All right, so now I'm here. So could you please elaborate on the meaning of the statement, "You're perfect, but you still need some fixing up"?
Well, I was trying to hint at it here, but because that's the understanding that you have when you come to recognize the positive nature of yourself, which is, by the way, in other definitions, is called enlightenment or kensho.
And the positive definition of self is the positivity of everything. So that's the positivity of pure emptiness and pure awareness as well.
Yes, it is, and yeah, that's right, yeah.
Okay, that works.
The nature of the world changes, and it's not
right.
It's not as bad as you once thought it was. That doesn't mean the world doesn't need improvement, because like us, the world needs improvement. The world needs practice. Sometimes our practice is helping the world because they need improvement. But basically, we are all, when our real nature shows, we're helping each other.
Spontaneously, without effort.
Spontaneously. You don't have to think about it. It just happens. Someone runs out and sees someone in danger and on the street from a traffic thing, and they just push the person. Occasionally, the person, because they don't think that maybe they're ed as well, but not very often. But occasionally that happens. Both things happen infrequently. But anyway. So
Cool. Go
yes.
ahead.
Yeah. So we can say to ourselves, when we're feeling negative things, when we're feeling bad, when we're discouraged, when we're depressed, even though it's not a complete medicine, it's like Excedrin. It kind of cuts down on the pain. It doesn't really work really well, at least in my case. So anyway, it helps. It helps to know that other side is the real truth of things. Both are real and unreal, but anyway, that other side is there, and that's who we are. That's who the real nature of the world is. That's what one nice thing good thing about the internet and Facebook right now is that people who try to find it see animals helping each other all over the place, different species helping each other. That's the nature of the world. Okay, Daniel?
All right, that's good. So technically, there really is no other side.
Yeah, that's right.
It's just the way things are.
It's just the way things are, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, we're all learning. We're all changing. Yeah, Matt. Hopefully, we get stuck sometimes. So. Matt.
Yeah, I'm really glad for the exchange you and Joanne had. There was something that I've been thinking about just to share with everyone that is regarding your interaction with Joanne, but a little different language that might be helpful. I read it, an account of the teacher who had been discussing effort with regards to desire and aversion, and a student had asked the teacher, okay, so we're suffering from our effort to do the things that we want because we have, we've got these desires to acquire them or to achieve them, and yet here you are, and it seems like it's hypocritical because clearly you desire to teach us something. And he said, well, it's different. It's not so much that I desire to do it, it's just that I'm inclined to do it. It's just merely my inclination.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that sounds very true. Yeah. When you desire, of course, then that's the self gets back into it again. The delusions come into play. Jeff?
I think you answered my question talking to Chris and Joanne. But I noticed the longer I practice that I feel like I notice that I have aversion to so many things. and I just notice it more. And my feeling is if I could just be okay with this, not like I'm not going, if I need to change something or do something, I will. But if I could just make sense, just be okay with whatever the experience is and let that get out of the way, then that would lead to me taking better actions or more skillful actions.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Definitely. Of course, ultimately, right is right and wrong is wrong too. But
Right.
those things don't disappear.
Right. I think the truth gets covered up by my own preferences and my aversion to things, and just being able to notice my preferences and aversion. It's just, I guess it's tougher for me. It's been tough to, I guess maybe I didn't notice I was having this aversion to something, and in the past I would just kind of let that lead me around. But I guess eventually I'm thinking eventually it'll get easier to get past this, like you were talking about before. It'll be less effort involved in that. It'll be more natural, like eventually getting to my true nature.
Yeah. Life is complicated. That's for sure. And so we are always saying to ourselves, we never say to ourselves, I'm bad. I mean, we do maybe, but it's better if you don't say I'm bad. Even though you are bad, you might want to say, because you want to take even that. It's kind of like better is, even though usually my bad is becomes superficial often, but that's the real truth. My bad is that kind of represents it exactly. My bad, because it's different. Yeah, Joe.
I wanted to, my way of thinking about what you said with the desire to help people and our self-driving helping people and our self-driving doing other things rather than just it being natural. And the way I think about it is that if my left hand was on fire, I would use my right hand to put out the fire without thought of self or anything. It was just, it's what comes natural to help myself.
Yep.
And eventually when the self breaks down and there is no self between me and everyone and everything, then that natural action comes forth with everything that I do.
Yes. Easy to answer.